President-elect Donald Trump's selection of Linda McMahon as his Secretary of Education sparked immediate controversy. Critics questioned her qualifications, citing her lack of experience in the field. McMahon, a former professional wrestling executive, had limited background in education policy or administration. This raised concerns about her ability to lead the Department of Education effectively. McMahon's supporters, however, pointed to her successful business career as evidence of her competence. They argued that her experience in managing large organizations would translate well to the role of Education Secretary. Trump himself praised McMahon's business acumen, suggesting that it would be valuable in overseeing the department and implementing his vision for education reform. The debate over McMahon's qualifications highlighted the stark differences in opinion regarding the role of the Department of Education and the direction of education policy under the Trump administration. Her nomination signaled a potential shift towards a more business-oriented approach to education, prioritizing efficiency and market-based solutions over traditional educational expertise. The controversy surrounding McMahon's appointment underscored the high stakes of education reform and the deep divisions over the best path forward. Her tenure as Education Secretary promised to be closely watched, with both supporters and critics eager to see how her leadership would shape the future of American education. Linda McMahon's background differed significantly from previous education secretaries. Her career had been primarily focused on the world of professional wrestling, where she co-founded and served as CEO of World Wrestling Entertainment, or WWE. This unconventional background raised eyebrows among education experts and policymakers, who questioned her preparedness for the role. McMahon's experience in education was limited to a brief stint on the Connecticut State Board of Education and her involvement with Sacred Heart University, where she served on the Board of Trustees. While these positions provided some exposure to education issues, they lacked the depth and breadth of experience typically associated with the role of Education Secretary. Despite her limited background in education policy, McMahon was a vocal advocate for school choice, a policy that aligned closely with Trump's education agenda. School choice, which aims to provide parents with more options for their children's education, including private schools and charter schools, became a central focus of her tenure. McMahon's supporters argued that her business experience, particularly her success in building a global entertainment empire, would be an asset in her new role. They pointed to her skills in management, marketing, and finance as valuable assets for overseeing the Department of Education and implementing Trump's vision for education reform. School choice emerged as a defining issue in President Trump's education agenda, with Linda McMahon serving as a key advocate for expanding school choice options for families. Trump's vision centered on empowering parents to choose the best educational environment for their children. Proponents argued it fostered competition among schools, leading to improved quality. Critics feared it would undermine public education and harm under-resourced communities. The debate over school choice highlighted deep-seated disagreements over the future of American education. President Trump's Agenda 47, his policy platform for his second term, outlined a sweeping vision for overhauling the American education system. This agenda included a range of proposals aimed at reducing federal involvement in education, promoting school choice, and addressing what Trump and his supporters saw as ideological biases in schools. One of the most controversial aspects of Agenda 47 was its focus on eliminating federal funding for schools that promoted critical race theory, or what Trump termed radical gender ideology. This proposal reflected Trump's and his base's concerns about the perceived influence of liberal ideas in education, which they believed were indoctrinating students with a skewed view of American history and society. Agenda 47 also called for dismantling the Department of Education, a long-standing goal of some conservatives who believed that education should be primarily controlled at the state and local levels. Trump and his allies argued that the federal government had become too involved in education, stifling innovation, and imposing unnecessary regulations on schools. Trump's Agenda 47 sparked intense debate over the proper role of the federal government in education and the direction of education policy. Its proposals, if implemented, would have far-reaching consequences for schools, teachers, and students across the country. Section 5. The Department of Education, a target for dismantling. The Department of Education, a cabinet-level agency, found itself in the crosshairs of President Trump's efforts to reduce federal government size. Trump's Agenda 47 called for dismantling the department, a move long advocated by some conservatives. Proponents argued it was an unnecessary bureaucracy, duplicating state and local efforts. They contended eliminating it would save taxpayer dollars and return control to parents, teachers, and local communities. Opponents countered it played a vital role in ensuring equity and accountability in education. They argued it was essential for enforcing civil rights laws and providing financial aid to low-income students. Section 6. Navigating the political minefield of education reform. Linda McMahon's tenure as Education Secretary was marked by the challenge of navigating the highly politicized landscape of education reform. Trump's ambitious and often controversial education agenda faced significant opposition from Democrats, teachers' unions, and civil rights groups, creating a difficult environment for enacting meaningful change. McMahon's efforts to advance Trump's school choice agenda were met with fierce resistance from those who feared that it would undermine public education. Her attempts to cut funding for schools that taught critical race theory, or what Trump considered radical gender ideology, were similarly contentious, sparking accusations of censorship and ideological bias. The political gridlock surrounding education reform highlighted the deep divisions in American society over the role of government, the purpose of education, and the best way to ensure equal opportunity for all students. McMahon's tenure was a testament to the difficulty of achieving consensus on education policy in a polarized political climate. Despite the challenges, McMahon did find some areas of common ground with Democrats and education advocates. She worked to expand career and technical education opportunities, a bipartisan priority that aimed to prepare students for the demands of the 21st century workforce. Section 7. Loyalty and Wealth. The Trumpian criteria for appointees. Critics of President Trump's appointments frequently pointed to a pattern of prioritizing personal loyalty and wealth over experience and qualifications. This pattern, they argued, was evident in Trump's selection of Linda McMahon as Education Secretary, despite her lack of background in education policy or administration. McMahon's appointment, critics contended, reflected Trump's tendency to surround himself with individuals who were personally loyal to him, regardless of their expertise or fitness for the job. They argued that this approach to staffing key government positions undermined the importance of competence and experience in effective governance. Furthermore, critics highlighted McMahon's wealth and her status as a major Republican donor as factors that may have influenced Trump's decision. They argued that Trump's appointments often seemed more transactional than meritocratic, with loyalty and financial contributions carrying more weight than qualifications. The perception that Trump valued loyalty and wealth over experience and qualifications fueled concerns about cronyism and a lack of accountability within his administration. Critics warned that this approach to governance could have serious consequences for the effectiveness of government agencies and the well-being of the nation. Section 8. A divided front reactions to McMahon's nomination. Linda McMahon's nomination as Education Secretary elicited a mixed bag of reactions from various stakeholders in the education community. Her lack of experience in the field generated skepticism and concern from some quarters, while others expressed cautious optimism about her potential to bring a fresh perspective to the role. Teachers' unions, long wary of Republican efforts to reform education, expressed reservations about McMahon's commitment to public education. They pointed to her support for school choice policies, which they viewed as a threat to traditional public schools, as a cause for concern. Civil rights groups also voiced concerns about McMahon's nomination, questioning her commitment to equity and her understanding of the needs of marginalized students. They pointed to her lack of experience working with diverse student populations and her support for Trump's efforts to cut funding for schools that taught critical race theory as red flags. However, McMahon's nomination did garner some support from those who welcomed her business background and her focus on school choice. Conservative education reform groups in particular praised her selection, hoping that she would champion their efforts to expand school choice options and promote market-based solutions in education. Section 9. Balancing Act, McMahon's challenges in implementing Trump's vision. If confirmed as Education Secretary, Linda McMahon would face the daunting task of balancing President Trump's ambitious education goals with the realities of governing. Her tenure would be marked by navigating education politics, advancing Trump's agenda while addressing critics' concerns. Implementing Trump's school choice agenda without undermining public education would be a significant challenge. McMahon would need to expand school choice without creating a two-tiered education system. Addressing ideological bias in schools without infringing on academic freedom would be another challenge. Ultimately, McMahon's success would depend on building relationships, finding common ground, and communicating the administration's agenda.